a man mutters under his breath, confused by the traffic jam because he can't fully understand the chaos happening around him. Suddenly, he sees someone walking between the cars. Intrigued, he asks if there has been an accident. However, instead of giving a clear answer, this man jumps onto the roof of a car. People start to get out of their vehicles, shocked by the strange situation. The man, staring at a giant creature in the distance, says that these beings are just as annoying as ever. He warns everyone to leave quickly because more monsters are coming, but the crowd doesn't seem to care. They run away in fear, shouting that the gate is open. The man holds a sword, ready to fight, when, out of nowhere, wild dogs rush in, barking and frothing at the mouth. A group of soldiers shows up and finds the scene confusing. The gates are open, making them expect a wave of monsters. However, they find nothing. They tell the people nearby that they are raiders and that a path needs to be cleared for them, but they wonder why there are no bodies around. At that moment, they find themselves frozen in fear as a powerful figure, known as System Number 43, appears. The soldiers they realize that only gold-ranked raiders and people from higher tiers can face such scary beings. They examine the man's coat, which has a golden dragon on it. They wonder about who he is. The man wipes blood off his face and they recognize him as Lee Semin. However, this discovery brings mixed feelings. Although they look up to him, they also struggle with fear because they know just how dangerous his situation is. A seemingly unimportant step may look trivial to some. However, it can be life-changing for others. For people who have experienced a fall, this single step might bring back the feeling of standing on the edge of a cliff. These are the words of a strange man talking to Lee Semin. He tells Semin to remember that when helping someone who has fallen, a simple word can be enough. Furthermore, he claims that he is not a coward. These comments stir up strong feelings in Lee Semin, making him think about the deep effect of those words. Ever since the rise of terrifying creatures that have been tearing apart humans, society has split into raiders and non-raiders. Semin, filled with fear, approaches the Raider Management Bureau. His hands are clenched tightly because the receptionist motions for him to come closer. Prospective raiders, which are often called the Awakened Ones, usually go through aura-level tests at the Bureau. To become a raider, they must first pass the Awakening Judgment, which checks if they have any aura. Only those whose aura levels exceed a specific threshold may try to take the qualification exam. This is an important milestone in their journey. However, many find it challenging. Because of this, they often prepare for a long time. Although some succeed, others struggle to meet the required level. But it is essential for their progress. The doctor watches. This isn't Semin's first visit, so she holds back on the usual explanations. She reminds him that, next year, he has to join the military. She points out that they have delayed his leaving because of his evaluation. However, they can't push it back anymore. After that, she shows that she understands his position and asks if she should help him get counseling. However, Semin turns down the offer, saying that he will just take the test and go. The results show that his aura level is still the same. It's still 103, like last year. Normally, aura levels start around 100 and go up over time, but Semin's level has stayed exactly the same since he was identified as awakened years ago. Although he tried hard and accepted that he lacked the skills to be a raider, the number has never changed. Semin fills out the required forms, thanks the doctor and leaves thinking that reality can be harsh. In the limits of his home, Semin smartly chooses to dive into digital distractions. While he is online, he unexpectedly finds a strange platform called the Transcendent Network, which clearly shows discussion boards and many tips. He thinks about what this site is all about and looks through the different boards, only to mock the users later, sure that they are just deluded, showing what can only be called high school syndrome. He argues that they need help to get back to reality. As he talks to the people on the site, he criticizes them, suggesting they should go outside instead of staying in their underground world, because that might help them regain their senses. In the middle of scrolling through the latest news, he becomes more and more frustrated when he sees that Raider On Sungjun has reached platinum rank. This news makes him even angrier, however, because it reminds him of the constant bullying he faced from Sungjin every single day. In a moment of frustration, Semin grips his training schedule, crumpling it with clear anger. He tries to explain his situation by calling himself a loser who gave up on formal education in order to chase a career as a raider. However, he is stuck in a rut, unable to even take the qualification exams for several years. The Transcendent Network site pings him once more again, sparking a deep curiosity inside him. He starts to engage in intense debates with other users, but he brushes off their replies with a sneer as he intentionally provokes one specific user, who calls herself Grand Wizard Iyana. Lost in this conversation, he doesn't notice the bright portal that appears behind him. A woman steps out and asks whether he is the unemployed bum Lee Semin, his online name. Surprised, Semin is speechless as she goes on to explain her reason for coming. She wants to find out what kind of person he is. She urges him to share his identity, but he has a hard time forming a clear answer, because the weight of the situation is too much for him. Semin retreats, filled with fear and confused by what is happening. Suddenly, thick vines trap him, making it hard for him to breathe. The woman, watching him struggle with a mix of disdain and amusement, angrily asks about his obvious weakness. She mocks him, comparing his skills to those of a tiny insect, and wonders how he ever got involved with the Transcendental Network. With just a flick of her staff, she lifts him into the air, calling him Fatso, while demanding to know who he is. In a panic, Semin nervously promises to tell her everything if she lets him go. Because of this, she frees him from the vines, dropping him unceremoniously onto the ground. Shaking, Semin asks for her name, and she introduces herself as Iyana. She reminds him of his earlier bravado and questions whether he was just lying about being a raider. Semin, however, insists that he is not making up his story. He explains that he is an awakened one with an aura, but he hasn't fully accepted the title of raider yet. Iyana tells him to show his aura. As Semin tenses and focuses, he realizes, to his shock, that his aura is weak. This discovery brings a look of disappointment to Iyana's face because she wonders if this is really all he has. She thinks it could be some kind of joke. Her eyes shine with a pink glow and she shows her own aura, which makes Semin understand that she is a transcendent, a being pretending to be human. Iyana stares at him. He quickly begs for his life, asking her not to end it. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door and someone asks if Semin is all right. He yells back that everything is fine. However, Iyana is annoyed, saying she has wasted her points on someone so totally useless. She then demands to know how he got into the Transcendental Network. Semin admits he isn't really sure. He just turned on his laptop. But Iyana doesn't understand what a laptop is. Looking at it, she says it looks strange and asks him to keep explaining. However, Semin feels lost, struggling to find the words to explain more. Iyana looks at the stickers on his laptop and starts to think about his life. He says there isn't much to share, only that he has faced many challenges that have brought him to this point. She thinks that here means his chaotic home life and calls him pathetic, which Semin, even though he doesn't really agree, goes along with. She argues that he should have tried to make his situation better. However, Semin feels that her comments seem a bit comforting, yet he begins to tell his story. He explains that he lost his parents when he was young, got adopted, and found his aura during school. But because he was bullied constantly, he eventually dropped out and his aura has stayed the same for 6 years now. Iyana takes a quick pause to think before saying that he has a pretty ordinary story. She then stands up and says it's time to go. However, she warns him that if he shares anything bad online again, she will come back to get rid of him. Also, she tells him to write an apology. Before leaving, Iyana thinks about the unfairness and harshness of the world, but she stresses that he should go outside and really live life instead of just getting by. As she leaves, Semin asks if they can meet again and Iyana answers that he needs to improve himself. After she is gone, Semin decides to face his fears, wondering if he can really become a transcendent. Semin is sitting at his laptop, working hard on the long-awaited apology. He humbly acknowledges the members of the Transcendental Network. He thinks he is just about to amaze them with deep insights. Because of this one, his link to the Transcendental Web has become a crucial part of his everyday life. He notices that Kyan, often called Dark Lion, hasn't shared any photos in a long time. Kyan, who came from a noble family, turned into a mercenary, using stolen sword techniques after the terrible murder of his mother by their master. After this traumatic event, the noble bloodlines were wiped out, and he earned a reputation as the continent's strongest warrior. However, this violent past has deeply shaped his identity, but it also leaves him with scars. Although he presents a tough exterior, his history is always there, lurking in the background. Kyan shares a family photograph, which is really nice, and Semin notices that the child looks a lot like his parents. He concludes that Kyan has definitely turned into a devoted father. Another person, Ghostblade Person, known as one of the best swordsmen, admits his admiration for a girl and asks Semin for help on how to win her affection. Semin suggests that he starts with a genuine compliment, maybe asking where her wings are, because he mistakenly thinks she is an angel. After that, he tells him to add a line about how her smile breaks his heart. Semin encourages Person to keep trying until the girl returns his feelings, and Person thanks him, promising to come back once he gathers enough points. While talking with the Transcendents, Semin realizes they all have one thing in common. They don't procrastinate, always keep their promises, take responsibility, and avoid excuses. However, Semin can't shake the feeling that he is just a slacker. Confronting this truth, he admits that he will probably never reach the level of a raider. Feeling a sense of defeat, Semin grabs a bottle from the fridge and drinks straight from it. After he finishes, he collapses onto the bed, thinking that if life with all its inherent cruelty is meant to be like this, it should never have given him that first glimmer of hope. He reflects on how he sees himself, acknowledging that he has always thought of himself as just a raider. He wanted to prove his existence. However, he also tried to show his value to his tormentor. But he finds himself stuck in an aura level of 103 for 6 frustrating years. Now, he doesn't have the strength to get up from the bed. In a state of drunkenness and annoyance, Semin posts on the forum, expressing his wish for change. Later, he falls asleep. However, when he wakes up, he realizes he said something strange while he was drunk. After looking at the responses, he finds that other users are really supporting his wish for transformation. This support fills him with deep gratitude, making him want to reply. Suddenly, a sharp voice coming from behind him asks if it is really him, the unemployed Semin, and he freezes, scared to turn around. He thinks about how the tone is unforgiving, almost like it was made of iron. He suspects that it's from a transcendent. The stranger puts a hand on Semin's back, pushing him to bend and calling him helpless, depressed and weak-willed, a cursed life that eats away at both his mind and body. The man keeps saying that it feels like having severed veins, while Semin feels snakes slithering on his skin. Remembering the taunts from his bully, Semin gathers his courage, tightens his fist, and tries to turn toward the stranger. The man, clearly impressed by his resolve, notes that Semin has not given up yet and says that he has a good name. Now, in a strange place, Semin feels lost and unsure. However, the stranger tells him he is Dak-go Chin-mei, the best martial artist ever, claiming that Semin is not a coward. Semin thinks about the incredible strength that can make the world submit. He believes that Yona has an amazing resilience. However, the skill shown by the new transcendent he met seems to go beyond what any person can understand. Chenma advises him to gather points to get onto the tip board, suggesting that he has something important waiting for him there. Although Semin tries to stop the man, he suddenly disappears, leaving Semin alone in his room. Confused by what just happened, Semin wonders if it was just a trick of his mind. However, the sharp pain from a cut on his arm proves that it was real. Remembering the stranger's warning about being cowardly, he feels an unexpected lightness around him. Determined to take action, he decides to clean his apartment, and when he finishes, he realizes that the only trash left in the place is himself. This leads him to commit to remembering every detail of his meeting with Chinmay. Wearing a tracksuit, Semin tells himself that he has courage. However, he soon feels an unexpected hunger. He wonders how it is possible to be so hungry after just 10 minutes of running. Summoning his determination, he decides to run again. But he knows it's hard to motivate himself, so he walks into a gym and carefully asks if there are any others there. A stranger, focused on his own workout, introduces himself as Kim Deok-B. Deok-B welcomes Semin warmly, thinking that Semin must be there to exercise. Smelling chicken in the air, he guesses that Semin has had a meal after some light exercise, which he finds a little strange. Taking Semin's hand, Deok-B insists that their session should start with a warm-up, saying that since Semin has come all this way, they should get going right away. Seeing Semin's athletic background, Deok-B mentions that with hard work, he can get back into shape. Although the workout is tough, Semin keeps going on the treadmill. When he suggests a short break, a brief respite, Deok-B firmly replies that if he feels like he's about to collapse, he should just give in to it. If fate tells him to rise again, he will. However, he cautions that if Semin keeps thinking about different options, transformation will stay out of reach. Semin thinks about why he can't give up. He considers that his problem isn't with his aura, but instead with his confidence. Deok-B notices a clear change in Semin's behavior and urges him to keep going, even when he feels like he's about to fall apart. Tired, yet still very much alive, Semin hears another person who is also training say that he should come back the next day. This man, who calls Semin a great young man, surprises him. Because of this, he says thank you. For the first time, Semin feels a growing sense of success as he remembers Chenma's advice to check the tips board. However, when he looks, he finds out with sadness that he doesn't have enough points to access it. While he thinks about how to get those points, he suddenly gets a quest to lose weight and get below 100 kilograms, which leaves him shocked. Semin firmly vows to himself that he will reduce his weight to a target of 100 kilograms no matter the challenges it may bring. His coach constantly encourages him to run, even when the effort starts to feel overwhelming. Looking into the mirror, Semin sees that he has actually lost some weight, giving himself the reassurance that he can achieve this. With determination, he decides to do interval training today. A female runner nearby expresses surprise at seeing him so committed to training again. She remembers how he looked during their first meeting, when he seemed like a wild boar. However, she realizes that he has changed a lot since then. Gathering his inner strength, Semin pushes himself to work even harder, repeating to himself that he is far from a coward. The girl walks over to him, clearly impressed by how intense his training is. She recalls their first day together, noting that it's rare to see someone so focused on their goals. Semin nods in acknowledgement but he politely excuses himself. He states that he must leave. This leaves the girl to ponder the reasons behind her choice to start a conversation with him. Although she enjoyed talking to him, she wonders if it was the right decision. However, she can't help but feel curious about what could have happened if he stayed. As she rushes past him, Semin picks up a faint smell typical of raiders around her, leading him to think that she has, at least, a blue mark. This shows her status as a raider. The physical and athletic abilities shown by raiders are, in reality, much better than those of regular humans. Even the ones at the lowest levels show a lot of strength. However, they often give off a sense of privilege, which is a result of the big rewards tied to their dangerous activities. Semin thinks back on his time as a trainee, when he became very aware because of what he went through of the bullying done by higher-ranked individuals towards those below them. He understands the tough truth. A huge gap exists not just between raiders and everyday people, but also among the raiders themselves. The girl playfully mocks him by calling him Fat Uncle, sticking out her tongue and wishing him luck. But she seems doubtful about the success of her good wishes. When Semin gets back to his home, he carefully looks at his laptop to check the latest posts on the forum. One post, written by Ayana, who seemed a bit scary at first but turned out to be really nice, grabs his attention. However, he forces himself to focus on his work, and then the system checks his weight, showing that he now weighs 100.02 kilograms. This news makes him feel frustrated, and he starts to think about whether going to the restroom could help him lose some weight. After he goes to the restroom, the system checks again and shows 100.05 kilograms. More annoyed than before, Semen huffs, thinking that every little bit of water should come out. When the system measures him again, it says he weighs 99.9 kg, just barely reaching his goal. Because of this, he earns 100 points, which makes him really happy, and he decides to use his points to unlock the tip board. On the tip board, engaging with a post requires spending 100 points. However, composing one costs 200. Semen learns that he earns 10 points each time someone reads his post. During his first visit, the system allows him to access one post for free. He chooses a post written about him, coming from Chenmaj, which explains that Kai starts at the lower Danshan HR and flows through the body to complete a single cycle of the first round. But people whose meridian is damaged cannot finish a full circulation because their internal energy fades like smoke, making proper circulation impossible. The post explains that if someone learns the right cultivation method and restores the normal flow of their inner energy, they can free themselves from this bad situation. Chenmei then claims that he is giving the amazing skill to Semen and tells him to respect him while following the chant. As Semen bows, he realizes that he has completely misunderstood aura all this time. Although he had viewed it as something to be controlled and dominated, Chenmei sees aura as a living being with its own will. With tears welling in his eyes, Semen realizes that this understanding was, however, the answer all along.